The Trump administration's aggressive trade policies have sent shockwaves through the global economy, leaving many economists and policymakers deeply concerned. The president's imposition of tariffs on goods from China, Mexico, Canada, and other nations has ignited a fierce debate about the potential consequences for American businesses and consumers. At the heart of this controversy lies a fundamental disagreement between the White House and the Federal Reserve, led by Chairman Jerome Powell. President Trump, a self-proclaimed tariff man, argues that these levies are necessary to protect American jobs and reduce the trade deficit. He believes that other countries have taken advantage of the United States for too long, engaging in unfair trade practices that have harmed American workers and businesses. The president's supporters often point to the decline of manufacturing jobs in the United States as evidence that drastic action is needed. However, Chairman Powell and many economists warn that these tariffs could have the opposite effect, potentially leading to slower economic growth, higher prices for consumers, and job losses in industries that rely on imported goods. They argue that tariffs are essentially a tax on consumers, who will ultimately bear the brunt of these policies. Moreover, they fear that the tariffs could spark a trade war, with other countries retaliating with their own tariffs on American goods, further harming the global economy. This fundamental disagreement between the White House and the Federal Reserve has created a climate of uncertainty in the markets, making it difficult for businesses to plan for the future. The president's unpredictable pronouncements on trade policy have only added to this sense of unease, leaving many wondering what the future holds for the American economy. The specter of inflation looms large over the current economic landscape, fueled by the Trump administration's trade policies and the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The tariffs imposed on goods from China and other countries have driven up the cost of imported goods, leading to higher prices for consumers on everything from washing machines to automobiles. While the administration argues that these tariffs are necessary to protect American jobs, many economists warn that they could have the unintended consequence of stifling economic growth and hurting American consumers. Adding to these inflationary pressures are the ongoing supply chain disruptions caused by the pandemic. Factory closures, shipping delays, and labor shortages have all contributed to a scarcity of goods, further driving up prices. As a result, consumers are feeling the pinch, with the cost of living rising faster than wages for many Americans. This has led to a decline in consumer confidence, which could further dampen economic growth. The Federal Reserve, tasked with maintaining price stability and promoting full employment, faces a delicate balancing act. Raising interest rates too quickly could slow down the economy and potentially trigger a recession. However, failing to act aggressively enough could allow inflation to spiral out of control, eroding the purchasing power of American consumers and undermining the economic recovery. The Fed's decisions in the coming months will have a profound impact on the lives of millions of Americans. The Federal Reserve's response to the current economic challenges stands in stark contrast to the approaches taken by its counterparts in Europe and the United Kingdom. While the Fed has maintained a relatively accommodative monetary policy, keeping interest rates low and continuing to purchase assets to support the economy, the European Central Bank, ECB, and the Bank of England, BOE, have signaled a more hawkish stance, expressing growing concerns about inflation and hinting at potential interest rate hikes in the near future. The ECB, led by Christine Lagarde, has been grappling with rising inflation in the Eurozone, driven in part by soaring energy prices and supply chain disruptions. While the ECB has been more gradual in its approach than the Fed, it has begun to wind down its pandemic-era bond-buying program and has signaled that interest rate increases could be on the horizon. The BOE, under Governor Andrew Bailey, has been even more aggressive, raising interest rates twice since December 2024 in an effort to tame inflation. These diverging paths reflect the different economic circumstances facing these central banks. The United States, with its strong labor market and robust consumer spending, appears to be better positioned to weather the current inflationary storm than Europe, where the recovery from the pandemic has been more sluggish. However, the Fed's accommodative stance has also raised concerns about asset bubbles and financial instability, highlighting the delicate balancing act facing central banks as they navigate the uncertain economic terrain ahead. The Trump administration's embrace of protectionist trade policies, characterized by tariffs and a retreat from multilateral trade agreements, has had a profound impact on the global economy, exacerbating existing tensions and undermining the rules-based trading system that has underpinned decades of prosperity. While the administration has argued that these policies are necessary to protect American jobs and interests, they have, in reality, harmed American businesses and consumers, particularly those in the working class, while also fueling global instability. The tariffs imposed on goods from China, Mexico, Canada, and other countries have increased the cost of imported goods, disproportionately affecting lower-income households who spend a larger share of their income on necessities. Moreover, these tariffs have invited retaliatory measures from trading partners, harming American exporters and jeopardizing jobs in industries that rely on international trade. The agricultural sector, for example, has been particularly hard hit, as farmers have lost access to key export markets. Beyond the economic consequences, the Trump administration's isolationist policies have also strained relationships with key allies, creating a climate of distrust and undermining global cooperation on pressing issues such as climate change and nuclear proliferation. The withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a landmark trade agreement involving 12 Pacific Rim countries, was a major setback for American economic and strategic interests in the region. By turning inward and embracing protectionism, the Trump administration has weakened America's standing in the world, leaving the global economy more fragmented and vulnerable to future shocks.